like a lot of times when you're a benefit consultant, you'll have multiple groups, different locations, and you go, well, let's consolidate all this, pull this together. Why would we pull this together? Well, because it's so much cheaper to do it 10 different locations. Let's have 10 different plans at 10 different locations. Hell, we ain't saying that. No one's saying that. They're going, no, let's consolidate all this with one administrator. Why? Because it's cheaper. It's easier to understand. It's the same thing on a massive scale. There's a big difference. It puts everybody out of business.
Well, here's the thing. Here's something else to build on that I was thinking through. The number one thing that I like about the Medicare for All idea right now is that if it was government run, because it's a public option, the amount of transparency there is so much more than what we have now, because we have zero transparency. Now, you've talked about this, and I don't want to get on a tangent with it, but the whole point is everyone is demonizing the health insurance companies. But the actual providers themselves, the actual hospitals, are able to charge literally whatever they want for whatever procedure they want without anything justifying what they're charging. And so I read a book by a physician from Johns Hopkins who showed the differences in cost for the same exact procedure across the United States. And so at one place, a heart procedure would cost $50,000. The exact same procedure, exactly the same, would cost $500,000 at somewhere else in the country. So that's 10 times with no accountability. And when asked, hey, can you justify why you're charging 10 times this other hospital, there is no justification for it. And so what we're looking at with Medicare for All is saying, okay, we're going to charge 110% of Medicare. And so the point is that there's accountability with the pricing of these procedures. But what you're going to see, what everyone is going to see, is massive pushback from providers. Because think about that. To your point, they got a certain education, they need a certain amount of income, and so you have this provider that's able to...
They want to retire early, too.
They want to retire early, too.
They're doctors.
Exactly, and they have a certain lifestyle to maintain. So you're going to see a massive pushback from physicians saying that
there's
Medicare
another option. I think that there's another option that a lot of people don't talk about. Pricing transparency. And so now everyone talks about, well, pricing now, and I'm going to tell you, this conversation right here is not good for me to even have. This is not good for my professional career, but it is the reality of what's important. Keep going. All right, sorry. All right, so I'm going to talk about, so that you can cut that. I'm going to talk about this. This is not good for me to talk about, but there is another alternative to doing Medicare for All. And I personally believe that there's a reason. Now, I have an educated, I'm not saying I'm right, but I do have an educated opinion on it, right? I've got 20 plus years in the industry. I've made a lot of money in this industry. It's the only thing I've ever known. It's the only thing I've ever really done and particularly studied. So I've often said that we need pricing transparency. It's very easy to talk about that. And people, we need pricing transparency. We have major problems with that. You have what's called the BUCAs, right? And so, and this is why this is not particularly good for me, right? And so, but it's still the truth. You've got large organizations, the Blue Crosses, the large health insurance carriers around the country that a long time ago, 50 years ago, however long, 70 years ago, whenever they started, they went into doctors' offices and they were able to pull together networks of people and push health care to different doctors. And because they were delivering volume to that doctor, they got a discount, no different than Costco does. That made sense then. I'm not so sure it makes sense now. And so I am a proponent of, there actually is a way, I think, to solve it. And maybe because there's wonderful things about the way that the health insurance system is right now. You have people that are entrepreneurial, that are digging into stuff that Medicare is never going to find out. There are people that are doing stuff. I mean, of course, I own a company, you own a company that does stuff in this industry that is able to really help self-insured plans and really dig in, which is exactly what Medicare would be, right? Self-funded by all of us.
Looking at individual claims.
Looking at all kinds of stuff.
So seeing like, okay, in that example of the heart surgery, saying this provider charged X for this procedure. The exact same procedure with the exact same procedure code was 2 times X at this facility.
Right.
50 miles down the road.
Right. Now, so that's just basic pricing. Where the real value comes in is not in the pricing. To me, I say make Medicare a standard. Medicare is 100% of Medicare, obviously. But instead of that, let's just go, well, what kind of provider do you want to be? You're an entrepreneur. What do you want to charge? I want to charge 120% of Medicare. I want to charge 150% of Medicare. I want to charge 200% of Medicare. I can imagine a scenario in which every provider just chose what is your pricing? We know what Medicare is. What percentage of Medicare are you? We're 160% of Medicare. Great. That's perfect. Now, as a patient, you can actually understand what it is. And so we take that off the table because what you're talking about is outcomes. Outcomes is totally, it has nothing to do. I've seen there's a group, we're in Greenville, South Carolina. There's a group, Quantros. Great friends, become really great friends. They're a wonderful organization that has pulled together, and we partner with them. They pulled together tons of information about outcomes as well, like the efficiency of a provider. Because there's a lot of times that people, I was just with them this week, yesterday, we were talking about how a lot of people will think that the lowest cost provider is the best, and it's not true. And so they have mined this data, and they have the elite data standard in the country right now of where the best outcomes come. And you can look at local hospitals. I won't mention by name, but you can look at the local hospitals, and I saw it. And there are some doctors that are in the toilet and some that are 99.9%. Now, which one do you want to go to? Who has more exposures, who does more surgeries? So there's data there. There's lots of stuff there. That has nothing to do with price.
So you're saying rather than have this set standard of like say 110% of Medicare, what you're saying is
let them be entrepreneurial.
You can look at the hospital and say, okay, this is 200%, and at the same time, this provider has a 5-star rating.
Correct.
And the beds are more comfortable.
Correct.
And the staff is better, and I enjoy this facility a lot more. So I'm willing to pay 200% of Medicare for the level of service.
You have an Amazon app?
I do.
Right. It's got stars. We know how to buy stuff.
I buy everything in this room was bought based on a review.
Correct.
Not
correct.
Looking at the price and going, I'm willing to pay a little bit more.
Right.
Or sometimes you find it for a cheaper price and a higher review.
All right. So let me give you a scenario. You're my doctor.
Yeah.
And I meet you and I go, I really like Trent's great. I know it's that we're having some medical procedures here. He's going to do my shoulder surgery, but I trust him. I think he's a good dude. I don't know damn thing about you. I don't know where you went to school. I don't know. You might suck. You might be really nice. But I mean, that's the whole Malcolm Gladwell thing, right? Talking to strangers, we don't know crap about anybody. Is the summary of the book. Sorry to spoil it. We don't know anything about anybody, and so I mean, that's what you get to. And so, but here's the whole thing: we have public data. We have public data that's going to say, well, Trent actually sucks at shoulders. These people never get any better, and occasionally they die. I might think you're a great person, but not that great. I'm not willing to do that. But the whole thing is people aren't stupid. They don't have the information. So why don't they have the information? Because it's constantly blocked in this super dynamic, very complicated conversation that actually has the ability to be segmented. If you take the pricing piece off the table, I really think that it could benefit from saying, just put out public pricing, but we're just going to do a percentage of Medicare. What are you? Now, the reason that's not going to happen is because the BUCAs, because of the large insurance carriers, the large, who they are. I don't have to mention their names. They don't want that to happen. That's their advantage. Imagine a day in which the large insurance carriers compete on their ability to answer your telephone calls and service you from a customer service standpoint. That's not going to be a good day. That's the reason that they can't do it. And that is the pull. So it becomes this huge fight from a political standpoint that I think that you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to chip away at to where you get to a point that's reasonable and feasible, or you're going to go all the way. You're going to go Medicare all the way. It's just going to be one or the other.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not that our politicians and everything, we can gauge, like SIA, Self-Insurance Institute of America, is here in our town, which is interesting. And so they're doing a lot to help with that, to get to something that's a little bit more realistic. The bottom line is people need to be able to understand what they're paying for stuff. That's not That's not unreasonable.
It's not crazy.
That's not crazy. We're not talking about crazy.
You're just looking for price transparency.
Right, that's
it's in
it.
every other market.
But why the hell do they fight it so bad? Because they can't do it. Because they don't want to do it. It's a problem.